SuperYacht is a home away from home for the rich. It's a way to get away from it all. Every possible luxury has been thought of. The best designers, the best builders, the best technology, the best materials, best. However, one thing the SuperYacht does not currently have the best of is internet. Because the SuperYacht is a marine vessel, and it's limited by the choice currently on offer. And there's a massive infrastructure required to offer internet whilst at sea. And whilst it's not the best, it's certainly the most expensive. A 128 megabit per second connection will cost you about $1 million a year. This is because you're at sea and you need connection 100% of the time, and there are no wires. So you need a satellite connection. Yes, you can get a 4 or 5G data connection, but get out in the open water, it doesn't work. So a home internet service most likely uses fiber optic cables, buried underground, and it sends and receives your data. So when you type the name of a website into youtube.com into your web browser, this information is sent out to a domain name server or DNS server, and it requests the IP address of YouTube. So a domain name server is like the phone book for the internet, and the IP address is like the phone number of YouTube. So the answer is returned to your computer via the same fiber optic cable, and then the computer connects to youtube.com via that IP address. When you do the same thing using satellite internet, the message is sent out onto the internet via a satellite in high orbit above the Earth, and then down to a land Earth station or LES, and then out onto the internet. The reply comes back the same route, and then your device connects to youtube.com. All that communication goes through that satellite via the land Earth station, and this is the connection a SuperYacht has to the internet. And every satellite requires a land Earth station to operate. And traditionally, satellites used for this service are in geostationary orbit, which means the satellite sits in an orbit that moves in relation to the rotation of the planet. So effectively, the satellite is stationary to the planet. And to be able to do this, they need to sit at 36,000 kilometers from the Earth's surface, and usually are situated over the equator. So what are the benefits of geostationary satellites? Well, one satellite can cover a massive area, which can include an entire ocean. So you only need a handful of satellites to give global coverage, possibly as little as 4. Well, the downsides, very expensive satellite hardware for end users, the satellites in space and the end users. On ships, it's known as VSAT, and these are the very big golf ball looking domes you see on superyachts. It takes a long time for the information to travel that long distance through the satellite, down to the land Earth station, and onto the internet, and then back again. And this is known as latency. And the Geo satellite, unfortunately, has high latency, meaning it's slow. Another downside is the signal, because it has to travel so far and it's so weak, it can be affected by bad weather. This is sometimes referred to as rain fade. Another downside is that the current Geo satellites, they have limited coverage. Now I know it sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but they cover most of the globe, yes, but they sit level with the equator in space, and the coverage drops off the further north or the further south you go. So if you go past 70 degrees north or 70 degrees south, you'll lose the coverage altogether. So what's the solution? And are there any solutions? Well, enter Elon Musk and the Starlink eggheads. All right guys, just want to take 60 seconds of your time to tell you about 3 reasons why you should be using NordVPN. Number 1, security. If you frequently use public Wi-Fi, such as at airports or in coffee shops, then you should be using a VPN for increased security. If you live in the UK, your service provider must log all of your search data for 12 months in case the government wants to snoop on you. No VPN will stop that in its tracks. Number 2, streaming. If you love watching streaming services and you want to maximize what you can watch, did you know that what is available to watch on Netflix in the UK is not the same as what is offered on Netflix in the US? And one of my favorite TV shows is not even available in the UK version of Netflix. So I connect my VPN to the US and hey presto, I'm watching it. And number 3, don't be the product. If you're thinking, hey, I use a free VPN and it's just as good, you're wrong. They log your activity and sell your data to ad companies. Anyone offering anything for free, and you have to ask, what is their business model? And let's put it this way, if you're not paying, you're not the customer, you're the product. And NordVPN does not log, and this has been independently verified. And if you use my link or coupon code, you'll get 73% off the 2-year plan plus 4 months for free. And that works out about $3.18 a month, or 1 premium cup of coffee. Well, enter Elon Musk and the Starlink eggheads. They have designed and implemented a system that operates in low Earth orbit, also known as LEO. They sit at 600 kilometers from the planet, much lower than the 36,000 kilometers of the Geo Satellites. The benefits of this are much lower latency and much faster potential speeds, lower costs. The hardware for the end user, us, is much less expensive to purchase, with almost zero maintenance costs. The potential of worldwide coverage, including the polar regions. So, are there any downsides? Well, you need many more satellites because the coverage footprint is so much smaller because the satellite is so close to the planet. Also, the satellites, they don't stay in the same position relative to the Earth, so they're constantly moving at high speeds. With everything that I've said, you would imagine that Starlink are dominating internet for marine vessels, right? The service. It has faster speeds, there's little to no latency, the equipment is much less expensive for end users. Well, Starlink is still an emerging system. They're still deploying their array of satellites, and they're still testing a lot of the equipment. So yes, you can buy Starlink internet service for your home, but as far as the maritime industry goes, it's not yet a viable alternative. Plus, it's not available everywhere on the planet yet. It's mainly US and some European countries. So one thing that currently prevents Starlink's system from dominating the internet at sea is their lack of ability to send data across the oceans. So you remember the land earth stations I talked about? Well, each satellite in space needs a land earth station to get its data out onto the internet. And as the LEO installations are much closer to the planet than the traditional geo satellites, and they're constantly moving, so the satellite's communication with the land earth station is limited because of the footprint. So if you imagine a satellite over the ocean, it needs a land earth station to talk to get out onto the internet. And hence, therein lies the problem. When these low Earth orbit satellites are over ocean regions, they have no land earth station to talk to. But imagine if the satellites could talk to each other. Instead of having to only communicate with an LES, they just send it from one to another until it reaches the destination. So until recently, Elon Musk's Starlink has been unable to make this work. So his satellites have communicated with land earth stations around the planet like the traditional satellites. But in 2020, SpaceX sent up 2 satellites with a communication device that uses lasers. The purpose was to test the ability of satellites talking to each other. In January of this year, January of 2021, SpaceX sent a further 10 satellites into space over polar regions, all equipped with laser technology. And for now, Starlink is only including laser links on polar satellites. I'm sure that will give the flat earthers something to talk about. But Musk wrote in a tweet, only our polar sats have lasers this year and they're on version 0.9. Version 0.9 refers to a beta or testing phase of the equipment. He also wrote in the same tweet something that should be exciting all end users who work at sea. He said this: all sats launched next year will have laser links, indicating that the laser systems will become standard on Starlink satellites in 2022. So what will this mean for superyachts in the future? Well, it will force the current leaders in the maritime internet industry to adapt and to catch up with Starlink. And I'm sure it will force some of them out of business completely. So are Starlink's competitors worried? Well, a couple of months ago, I spoke to a couple of technicians from one of these leading companies and I asked them how they felt about it and were they worried about the emergence of Starlink and the installation of LEO satellites and what would it mean for them. But they just laughed and said that they weren't worried. But then later I looked on their website, on the technician's own website, I found information that their company is planning the very same deployment of low Earth orbit satellites. Maybe this is why they weren't worried. However, they currently don't have any in operation and the first launch is not until 2022. So they see the future themselves, LEO installations, but they're already behind in the race. In fact, with no satellites in orbit, they're not even in the race.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.